You know, no, never mind awkward. This is fucking dangerous. You know, this is shit that could seriously fuck up my. That's there's that aspect of why it's kind of awkward, and then there's also the oh.
I'm willing to help you. I smiled awkwardly but said, "Thanks for the offer. However, I think I'm done feeling bad."
You hand strain. It's awkward. It's uncomfortable, and here's the it. Never mind any of that aspect. I am socially awkward, and so I get home and I'm just like, fuck this.
This is an extra pile of awkwardness. Anyway, I'm going to leave this video uploading as I now have to go up the road.
Fortunately, plants don't have it, because that would make things bloody fucking awkward for the vegetarians, wouldn't it? You know, I mean, personally, with quick table service, said Eve. The waiter smiled awkwardly and handed Laura and Eve their drinks. Then he sat down beside Lucy.
It feels much less awkward in a really fucked up kind of way to say, yeah, I want to take care of you.
That kind of, you know, oh, this character on this TV show is socially awkward and, you know, is kind of maybe somewhere. A lot of British comedy when it comes to sex is very, very awkward. But I don't fucking bother, because it's just tough. It's just tough and awkward, and I don't need something to talk about. So if the conversation dries up and there's an awkward moment, well, we all like video games. We all like to be right. I am way too socially awkward to watch a thing where, like, the actors can turn in the if it happens at the most awkward time. You only need to pay for a prostitute if it happens together. Maybe that's something to consider. I feel awkward whenever I'm sort of
kind of genitals are like, well, hey, time for happy times, and like it's apparently really awkward for people where it's just like, yeah, just
is about. The sitcom is a situation comedy. It is this thing and this thing, boom, awkward situation comedy, yay. So it's good, this working, is it? Yeah, fucking, I just want to get out of here because this is awkward as fuck. And also, it hurts.
in big corporations, you might go on awkward lunches or whatever because, hey,
every fucking thing that's ever fucking happened in our lives. So as someone who is awkward because, you know, autism, people, although it was quite awkward seating arrangements, in the sense that it's like, okay, wait in this area, like, this is a photo of me, I'm not going to mention anything about my personality, and so you feel incredibly awkward, because it's like, on the one hand,
to do her weekly shop. Sally groaned when she saw them. Awkward, Celia said, and James, help her with her bags. James shrugged and approached.
I don't use them so much, but, you know, because, again, they're slightly awkward. They're not as easy for
what I had to say when really found the whole exchange awkward. Hello, he said. I'm here to take William home. I hear you are a friend of his.
And maybe that's a very British thing, actually, the awkwardness. Because certainly a lot of British comedy, when playing this game, is going to now be quite awkward. Quite awkward now, because it's just going to be, okay, trying to kill things. Like, I was going to do like the first part of Fuzzy Logic, and then turns out incredibly awkward to record an audiobook of that in this house. So really just enough to make things awkward with universal credit, but not enough to actually make a meaningful fucking difference on.
Apart from anything else, the pages distort because they're fucking awkward, okay? Because I can't. The reason why it's insulting for me is and this is a bit of an awkward admission, mate, because you know this is YouTube. There are who has been, you know, the butt of so many jokes, who is so awkward and shy, like the fact that that would be awkward, to say the least. Dirty McDirtyton of Dirtyton Shire. I can't be in the same room as this person. I'm going to embarrass myself. It's going to be awkward and horrible. No. Sammy, my dear, it's been quite a while. Sammy chuckled awkwardly. Well, I'm here on business. I know, said David with a curt nod of his head. Pretty much anything beyond that point, and you're just making it really awkward if you want to drink healing potions or you want to heal yourself. While you're fucking snooping on my mind. This is fucking awkward and weird and invasive, right? She's that kind of person, but because the tissues, okay. Things are awkward, okay. Me and Dad are not good when it comes to cleaning, because feeling so weak and awkward, and sort of doing that, you know, washing myself like that means we've got a young woman here inquiring about the vacancy. He clicked off the intercom and smiled awkwardly at her. Sally returned, and it's making it so very, very awkward for us moderate atheists who are like, no, don't. Door where she was lifted out by a quantum oscillator. She stood before Joshua awkwardly for a moment as they each looked and there's kind of like awkward stares of just like, well, that's racist slavery, mate. We don't do that.
My obscure knowledge collides awkwardly with humour. But yeah, as a regulated capitalist, things are kind of different.
No, books are pieces of dead wood that are awkward and inconvenient to read. I will take audiobooks. Nikki went to sit beside Lisa and comfort her. The Bamkirsch felt incredibly awkward. I'm sorry. I didn't know.
Lisa that looks after him, the motherly figure, and it's going to be so awkward seeing that character and thinking, but it's getting in the way and it's making things painful and awkward. You try to. Well, we're in the middle of a fairly boring date and we feel socially awkward, so I'm just gonna browse my tablet here because I totally understand if that happens. I totally understand that it might be awkward, but if it's consensual, if you just Trump, that is gonna be awkward. That is going to be awkward. I mean, there is going. Darth Vader is Leia and Luke's dad, which made it really awkward when I was watching it. Most of the time, I can talk to people more or less okay. Like, there's awkwardness, and I sometimes say the wrong thing, but most of the time, in situations with normal people doing normal things, awkward and hard to kind of comprehend. I have to very, very consciously know shit, and it's like in real life that, you know, even as I was writing her, that would be way too awkward. That would no. So you know, they're so awkward in front of other people that the only way I can really cope is by not. I'm a very awkward person, and kind of a lot of people see awkwardness and they see weakness and they kind of want to be it's frowned upon and awkward, and people will assume that you're kind of doing it for an impact on their lives. Whereas for me, it's like, well, I feel a bit awkward and embarrassed and anxious at times. You know, Dan, I'll be ready for you. He hands me a pair of goggles. I feel awkward for a moment, naked before this strange suited man. What? Like, because okay. Awkward as fuck. Okay. I'm a nerd. I'm not used to talking, but that's one of this awkwardness. No. Whereas now, kind of, now I have testosterone. I'm very He's trying to ask is whether you want to fuck me. Lisa blushed. Okay, this is awkward. Then sit down and let me handle this, said the Bamkirsch. With you, said Anthony. I'm afraid you're stuck with Lucy and the awkwardness of keeping a grown woman as a pet. Believe me, I know that angst.
Hey guys, check your balls out for lumps. Because we are so awkward and embarrassed about it, and we're just like, no, I'm fine.
And through it all, I was having these incredibly awkward and embarrassing tests.
Great! This is an incredibly awkward thing that could go wrong in many, many ways, and my mum just wanders in and starts.
I used to be a guy who was incredibly awkward about going out in public.
Doctor. And when they've got kids, that would be fucking awkward. Just, you know, husband and wife playing.
Maybe you can be my wife, and maybe then it's not at all weird or awkward about the slave owning. Yeah, look, it artists on them, and then there are also people like Alex Day, and it's like, oh, this is awkward now, right? I mean, there's one of the songs which interview, and it was a nice place, good people, although it was quite awkward seating arrangements.
The crowd of family and friends stare awkwardly at the happy couple. She will, alas, be indisposed for the rest of the reception, says
Stuff, whether it's work or it's D&D, where kind of whenever there's an awkward moment, you can just laugh it off and say.
So it's like 15 minutes to an hour of just the most awkward talking ever, as they are. If there are submissive women out there, that they're not gonna fall for, you know, the awkward as fuck, you know.
No, that's being facetious, but it wasn't pleasant. Because, you know, as I say, awkward. And so kind of being...
Frankly, as someone who is socially awkward, I always go for the fucking self-scan machines, because I don't want to talk to a person.
Somebody did, and you saw it, you might post, ooh, awkward, soz, backing away now. Then, you know, fair enough. I have clearly a problem.
Well, if nothing else, that should result in a few hilarious and awkward interviews with the BBC. So, Mr. Alexander Gordon Jahans, you know, in terms of, like, you know, fiction that I write. So anyway, moving past that awkwardness, right, my outgoings aren't that great.
Asperger's syndrome, right? I am awkward around normal people, okay? I find normal being in situations with normal people doing normal.
And this was a short lady, and so it's like from one awkwardness to another awkwardness, because it's like,
and then, you know, also I'm on the autistic spectrum, and for me, I'm just a bit awkward at times, and I say the wrong thing.
Now, last night I was listening to Sam Harris's incredibly awkward Open the Gates episode.
I think Sally could have consented, not remembered, but she felt awkward. What if this was all a misunderstanding? There was a landline phone on the bedside table. See you in another video that will hopefully be less awkward. In the beginning, there was nothing.
Oh, definitely moments where I am just left feeling ashamed and awkward and unhappy because
In fact, sylphs are very much still regularly killed. And like that awkwardness of like, so we're allying with you because there's a bigger bad. That was a really awkward time for that to happen. Because I wanted to immediately sort of be around people who will make me feel ashamed and awkward and embarrassed and will try to hit me. Yay! So I spent a lot of my time around the TV, doing her shoelaces, remembering how they had proved the most awkward part of her last night with Laura. She kicked off her I appreciate that conversation is going to be kind of awkward to have, and I totally appreciate if during that conversation you're like, okay, you know, we did some damage to some other guys and it was awkward. But that isn't why I'm hungover. That's just why I drink alcohol.
Is just the more sort of like social awkwardness sort of thing. For me, how it manifests for me is that effectively,
it's kind of, I'm at a very awkward point where I'm like getting up at 1 AM. Who is so, and I'm gonna talk and talk and talk and talk, and I am socially awkward at the very best of times. Never avoid her. Just sort of like, yeah, I don't want to get into an awkward conversation with you. You know, meanwhile I'm sort of, do you want to follow me through into the living room and tell me about it? Lisa looks at him awkwardly. Farshnik smacks his head in frustration at his own stupidity. Toy fair and talk about anything with these people, because I know that if things get awkward, there's always a standby subject that can be safely talked about.
A whole other area, sort of the awkwardness of getting into relationships, and the way that at the moment it's
The Anti-Critic, and I am reviewing Day of the Doctor. Yes. Bit of an awkward space to record in. Sorry, but there we go. I mean, I fucking just pointed out how I feel awkward about, you know, the situation with regards to Patreon. The fact that I don't. I'm pretty fucking open about goddamn everything. To the extent that my mother is freaking out. My mother that would not just be terribly fucked up and awkward. But what I can do is write this bullshit weird stuff that bad place for reasons. Basically, I was so awkward that whenever I went into clothes shops, I would write.
I'm aware that 90% of the reason that experience is so very, very awkward and terrible for me is my own neuroses, but
angry as fuck, embarrassed by my fucking parents as fuck, awkward as fuck, wondering if I can fucking live
kind of autism, except that, you know, they get into socially awkward situations at times, and I would kind of put myself, but it's awkward. It's awkward, especially because I wear proper.
you know, this was a day that I was dreading, because this is the awkward family social time.
Printer. You know, if you want to do it just at that awkward fucking moment when you don't have any time, then. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Alex Jahans, and welcome to another review in an awkward position because I want to keep the webcam here to record for Let's Play.
They've got a canon and a story to take care of, and this is set before Harry Potter, and how fucking awkward would it be if your Harry Potter spin-off...
But, you know, I do feel awkward around people. So
you know, I always like to have
cheese and make things awkward, right?
And part of that is down to just the awkwardness and embarrassment of, you know, sort of saying to your talk with people. But at the same time, you find that very thing awkward. Well, you have something to take the edge off.
In the sense that, you know, I feel very awkward around other people, and I don't know what to say, I don't feel comfortable unless...
To begin with, it was like, oh, well, you know, I'm getting bullied, I'm awkward, I'm lanky, blah, blah, blah. And then there was this weird period where a cute thief character, and now being an orc barbarian, of just... and this time going around leveling up my... Sorry if I'm not looking in the right place and whatever, because... yeah, it's a new setup and it's a bit awkward, but... whatever.
We may have noticed some awkward cuts in the film. Certain family members have suddenly revealed they don't want to be in the vlog.
Planes. Planes might be good. Yes. That was a little awkward. That was not so hard. It'd almost be more awkward to deliberately avert my gaze than it would be to look at her, but at the same time, She glugged it down greedily and then licked her lips. She handed the glass back inside. Feel a bit awkward now, just sort of standing here.
We bask in the fact that there is another fucking human here. Right? It's fucking awkward as fuck. And it's not as hard.
Oh, okay, I've been awake for a fucking long time. I am incredibly socially awkward. I am in a place in my life where my life is completely... So I might be a tiny bit awkward about that, but it's... you know, it's just...
Now, like, in the past, I would be out and about and sort of awkwardly avoiding people because there'd be a part of my brain going, they're pretty, I like
that being there, because that would be way too awkward. So you kind of... it's this kind of trying not to think about things.
Not gonna fall for, you know, the awkward as fuck, you know, you know, awkward as fuck, incredibly cautious about, you know,
a TV series with my family, with my sister, and that was very awkward. And so I knew that this wasn't going to be one I would want to read.
Can go in and come into the room and start attacking me. I like that, you know, there are awkward pauses when, you know, people walk by or whatever. I happens at the most awkward time. You only need to pay for a prostitute if it happens to happen at the most awkward moment. If you want it to be at any other...
care about are still people, and it's awkward, right? Like, it's when the war against Donald Trump breaks out. It's gonna be really fucking awkward. Sorry, yeah, we're sort of going to war.
Dealing with sexist bigots, trying to manage the awkwardness and embarrassingness and
biological reactions that mean that things are suddenly rather awkward. Yes. To Pluto, or at least enough to make it incredibly awkward. You know, even if you say there are certain things that, you know, like
painful and annoying and awkward experience. Anybody? Yes, you over there in the back. It's because I'm now at the kind of the point in my life where I feel awkward when I can't share the burden of driving. Like, you know, when the balls and they are both there. They're got an ultrasound, and that was awkward as fuck. The ultrasound is okay.
I shouldn't have to feel so awkward about this, but I do, because I'm a nerd.
You know, quietly tapping its foot and sort of, you know, looking away awkwardly like, oh, you're doing that again, are you? Yes, very mature. I mean, I saw it summarized, you know, best by, you know, like that awkward moment when you're a Muslim and you're forced.
I wear like proper jeans supported by braces, right? So it's, yeah, awkward. It's like, it's good, it's working, is it? Okay. Tangent. Awkward tangent. But I feel like it's the elephant in the room. So fucking ridiculous, but like, I have Asperger's syndrome. I find shit awkward at the best of times.
Shedding clothes. Everyone watches her strip in an awkward silence until at last the shoes and socks are removed, and
where this gets awkward, of course, is that I have, as far as I am, oh, it's gonna be so awkward when people are like, so what did you do the year after you left college, after you left university?
If I have the crystal ball on top of my head, it would be an awkward way to spend the day. Blown up in the pieces, blown up in the pieces. What?
you know, there are also many kinds of like, well, this is going to be awkward because I'm going to have to explain this, and I'm going to have to explain that, and I'm going to have to...
But like, still, I would feel awkward about it, and he can't, you know, gather, you know, even my perspective as to why.
Because I need something from it. This is terrifying and awkward and embarrassing. I need porn. I need porn, and just my leg just went and inverted, my left leg, and I fell awkwardly and broke my wrist. So
Sort of mentally undressing with my eyes and like, awkward. So then it's like, okay,
you get a female doctor, you'll end up with a cat doctor. So there was this amazing and awkward moment during the first years. So
situation has been a great cavalcade of just embarrassment and awkwardness. Oh God. Obviously, the whole sort of awkward. So we've been eaten. We've now sort of got. I don't know why these people would be checking
down with my legs crossed on the floor. It takes me a while to get up. So that was a bit awkward. Especially as deeper than counselling. Because this is less awkward and embarrassing than counselling. Because
failure, just failure and awkwardness and embarrassment and one thing fucking going wrong.
I loved him very much, but one time I dropped him awkwardly and his back leg stopped working. So Dad put him down. You know, taken in through the skin. And my mum's home. So this is fucking awkward. You know, never mind awkward, this is fucking dangerous.
And like, that's a whole other level of awkwardness that I just cannot deal with.
I love you. Right, thanks, says Laura awkwardly, watching Ruby nervously. Do you mind if I strip? Asks Ruby.
Like, I feel incredibly awkward. A lot of the time actually, but especially in social situations, like not your life, didn't I? How did you know? I asked, before adding awkwardly, and me and Sammy aren't really, she laughed and kissed me on the cheek. You know, like, there are all these things that kind of make you go, but yeah, I'm not, I'm a very awkward person, and kind of, no matter what, right? And it's like, at least this way, I can save myself the awkwardness and embarrassment and a couple of quid going to a proper fucking... It's gonna be really awkward when the war against Donald Trump breaks out. It's gonna be really out into the cinema to watch them, because I don't like people. People get on my nerves. It's awkward enough watching the films when bloody... You know, this was a day that I was dreading, because this is the awkward family social time.
So I feel awkward saying this, but it occurs to me that okay, this is where my being awkward really comes into play. It doesn't about, you know, using real people names, you know, like say I feel awkward about using names from people I know and stuff, because it's like, no,
in it. So it's very fucking awkward to have literally my testosterone injected into my back and be happy. And it's awkward saying, like, hey,
it's kind of, I'm at a very awkward point where I'm like getting up at 1 AM. Ultrasound, a scan of my testes, and that was fucking awkward as fuck. And I just prefers instead to listen to bloody fan vids, because I'm too awkward and embarrassed to actually just say, but in a safe way, because if things get tight, if things ever get awkward, if you ever reach a point where you're like, I really don't, I have no podcasts on here, this is awkward, but my old phone did, got that stolen at job seekers meet.
bed, which requires falling because big, and in the process of which landed awkwardly on my hands. Yeah, can't lift my hand.
People go past and stuff like that, and it's like, okay, this is awkward. So, you know, because they take more time, because
That's a level of awkwardness that I feel like is at this point a ticking time bomb. That, like,
it would be really fucking awkward. It would be really fucking awkward for them to play doctor and daughter.
They tend to be less socially aware. They tend to be more awkward. They tend to just want to have their facts and their sheets, and I just want to get on.
And I love how delightfully awkward Spock is in this. Explain all of those awkward moments about, you know, kill the Nazis. It might be slightly awkward.
Splint for my wrist, because I basically fell awkwardly and I got a minor fracture. I've had a lot of pain in the past. People that the fanfic was about, which sort of makes it weirdly awkward and circular, and suddenly I'm picturing Adric and mud crab men. How do people who find these situations awkward cope in a situation where you're there to be
It might be slightly awkward. Yeah. Generally, piece of advice. Don't
Towering over her. Okay, awkward as fuck.
And then we enter the interview room, and the door goes. And I've never really felt awkward about it because there's kind of, an autistic part of me that's like, well you are speaking, but their lips won't. And so there'll just be like an awkward moment or two where the lips just slowly, sort of psychologically speaking, leveling the issues so that it feels less awkward, right? In that you are to try out new things, and therefore it would be incredibly awkward to run into someone who looked exactly like I was so incredibly awkward for so long because I almost had like the opposite of the male gaze, in the sense I'd still be the awkward guy who has tons of friends on Facebook, but when he feels lonely, the hooks were well and truly in. And what was your third chance? Lisa looked at him awkwardly. This is it. Instead, I have this very awkward thing where, like, I'm the kind of person who, even when I'm going to, like, Sainsbury's or... Okay, we are talking about people who cannot go to the toilet by themselves, who are so crippled by social awkwardness that they cannot go about. Most of the fan art was made to essentially insult me. If it wasn't, I apologize. I am awkward as fuck dealing with this stuff because I'm on the cheek. Honey, you're king of the world. Joshua nodded and looked away awkwardly. Look, I'm not really the sort to rule, I move from your body to Pluto to make it bloody awkward, right? To make it bloody difficult, to make it damn noticeable. Okay, right. This feels really awkward to talk about because I'm, although that's a little bit awkward. Yes, maybe we won't do that just there. Awkward. It's like, let's get this working, is it? Yeah, fucking, I just want to get out of here anymore. And also, I feel awkward about, using real people names, like, say, I think someone can say, you know what, this isn't cool with me, this is awkward, this doesn't feel right, I'm saying no, I'm sorry. There is a lot of overlap in the sort of the awkwardness and the sense of wonder, and like once during a conference where Tony Blair was speaking, it is a bit awkward when I asked him for his autograph. Sally stared at James. This was a whole new... It was a pleasant enough experience, and there was no awkward hair, like no awkward small talk. Nobody asking me about my holidays. To that time, which is bloody awkward as fuck, considering that literally my medication depends. Eat a sausage without sort of feeling a bit awkward, but you do you, 4chan, you do you. A breakdown of potions that I'm slowly putting together: night vision, leaping potion, waterproofing, awkward potion. Bags who I happen to be trying to get along with for the sake of awkward fuckingness. I mean, there are good people there. Actually dying. The Farshanuk smiled awkwardly. Yes, perhaps I should have mentioned that. It is very unlikely that you could... wrist, because I fell awkwardly, and my mum still hasn't paid me back. Many months later. I don't go out as much because it's about avoiding awkward social situations, and I generally only see people. This, for me, is still something I find incredibly awkward. It's still something that I am genuinely kind of embarrassed about. He clicked off the intercom and smiled awkwardly at her. Sally returned the awkward smile and
put her hands in the pockets of her hipster jeans. You know, it'd reach a point where where it would become awkward to you know, clean it and, you know, everyone. And I am Mr. Socially awkward. I don't say anything. I'm very clear cut. I just
with this needle, and it's like, this is my manhood right there, and I have to wait and make awkward small talk whilst this thing that I need.
Old friend, as tears started to roll down her face. Glenn was looking away awkwardly. I looked Fiora in the eyes and said, "You still can."
So, said Sally, trying to change the subject to something less awkward. What do you think of the new doctor? Rubbish, said James.
Very awkward and terrible for me is my own neuroses, but it's there, and it's awkward and uncomfortable, and